Well, welcome to another edition of Uspaxico. I'm really excited today that I get a chance to talk to my good friend, Steve Peterson. So, Steve, welcome to Uspaxico.
Thank you. It's a joy to be with you.
Yeah. So, as you know, I've been doing these videos and these interviews with friends, and one of the thing I've really been enjoying is having a chance to talk to people that were part of my early years of life, somewhere in the middle and towards the end. I guess you fit a good. I mean, you're certainly in the second half, right? But you're more than a third, I think. Because when did we meet? 2008, I think.
Well, can we clarify? I mean, are we really towards the end of your life? Are we talking about, or just,
good point.
This is
I'm
just,
talking,
this whole thing's about your midlife crisis right now, really.
You and I are both. We're both dads, and we need the literal dad jokes. Okay, yes, literally. Okay.
So I met you while you were still a young buck in your probably early 30s, is my guess, because it would have been about 15, 16 years ago.
Right. So yeah, for sure. If I make it to 100, this will be the young early 50s. The first 50 years, right? So
exactly.
All right. But yeah, I was in my 30s. You came down. You came up because you were living in Costa Rica at the time, and you came up to visit Tenancingo to scope this out as a place to serve and work with your family. And I think it was 2009 that you guys came here.
Rolled in. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have met you 2008, I guess, or maybe. Well, anyway, back in those days. Yeah. So it was neat that you guys came, you and your wife Elizabeth, and your kids. It was just kind of like a awesome fit at the time for our kids. Pretty much same ages. So
yeah, our daughters became besties and still are close. And
yeah, we have the pictures of their first dibs at ballet, which they did for a season, and just so many play dates and just fun overlaps in ministry and at church and other places.
Yeah. Fun raising kids, especially in those ages, together at that time, and especially as missionaries, you just develop that closeness, and so we were in it and involved and integrating lives, 4 critical years there. We were together on the field.
Yeah. It was. I remember growing up as a missionary kid that my parents' co-workers in many ways were my aunts and uncles, and it felt like this is. I mean, I knew they. They weren't by blood, but it just felt like having that extra set of adults who were close to family and felt like family. We did enough things with them, and we would leave our kids with you guys for something, and it was just like they're with family. And
Aunt Lena and Uncle Matt. I mean, our kids still would speak of you that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember. One of the early things I remember about you is you have I guess I would say a visionary mind. I don't know if it's visionary or just you have maybe entrepreneurial. You have this idea of using creatively different ways to connect with people. And in Tenancingo, what you did is you started a gym, right? Because you enjoy physical health and fitness, and so I don't know. What was, I guess, how would I ask that as a question? Well, how was that? That happened. That started in Costa Rica, so it wasn't something new, right? That you were.
Yeah. No.
So say a little bit more about that.
So went to the mission field first to Costa Rica, and arriving there in 2005 with the idea of needing to create some businesses and be entrepreneurial, because wanting to establish some self-funded ministry. So the idea was a theological community where people who wanted to really study for ministry and go deeper actually prepare to be pastors, missionaries. But the reality in Latin America is a lot of those who feel called, they can't afford seminary. So it was trying to create a model akin to Jesus People USA up here in Chicago, and literally a community, self-supporting community, and people living in the community work to earn their keep. Everybody lives out of a common purse. And whereas Jesus People, it's not necessarily for the purpose of that level of discipleship and ministry training, but having lived there a couple different spots in my earlier days, I grabbed that concept and wanted to bring it to Latin America. And so, I was in Costa Rica trying to establish contacts and knew that this was going to be like a 50-year plan to develop all this, but was doing the networking, and along the way worked for a microfinance organization there in San Jose, Costa Rica called Adapte, and was helping them and I was learning how to train others to start small little businesses, and then learning myself along the way. And then with that, started manufacturing kettlebells, which are the Russian weights, and started doing kettlebell training. And then it was our mutual colleague, Chris Kazulis, that contacted me. Our team leader up in Tenancingo contacted me down in Costa Rica and said, "Hey, I love what you're thinking. And, what we're doing here is we're trying to develop a church planting movement, but we have no way of funding this, no way of paying these church planters that we want to send out all over Mexico. And I think your concept, both in the area of theological training, which they were already starting to try and put together, but then developing that funding model that would be entrepreneurial, starting businesses." And so, he basically, long story short, recruited us to move from Costa Rica to Mexico. And that's when we arrived in, I think it was November of 2009, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. And then it went on, and Chris encouraged me, "Hey, keep doing that." And, here in Mexico. And so it was, went to a foundry up in Lerma, I think, near Mexico City, and started producing kettlebells, and then started training, and then started training people in a park. And then all of a sudden we had about 18 people one day in the park for our kettlebell workout. And I remember just some of them saying, "You really need to start a gym and find a bodega, a warehouse, and open up a gym." And so we did, and it was a lot of fun, but it really did serve to do good ministry, because especially where we were at, for a lot of good Catholics, it was a betrayal. It was treasonous for them to go to our church. It was treasonous to their family and their faith. And so the idea of crossing that threshold and passing through the door into our church was threatening. But for them to pass the threshold into the gym, the kettlebell gym, that was innocuous. That wasn't any problem. And then, but it really helped us establish some loving relationships. And then from that as a platform, then to do good ministry. And even, people came to Christ, started out as gym members, and came to have a relationship with Jesus as their personal Savior and Lord. And then the Crucible Project, also, we'll talk about that, but that really helped to bring some of those men along into a deeper relationship with Christ and with their families. And anyway, everything was going gangbusters, and then we left.
Oh, there you go. Transitions in life, right? Things happen.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we'll talk about that transition in a minute. But I guess sitting in those 4 years you were here, Steve. I mean, looking back at we've been here 15 years. Only 1 year ahead. We got here a year ahead of you, but our first 5 years, you were here 4 of those, and so it was really meaningful to you, like I was saying before about aunts and uncles, but just the bond with you and Elizabeth and Lena and I and Chris and Kathy, the whole team. To have you leave was like, oh, it was a big loss. We noticed that in a big way, like, oh wow. But and then our kids noticed that too. But I just remember even in the days we were there, the interactions. So I did go to the gym. I was a part of that. But also you on this business side, you actually created a forum where there was some different business leaders and people. It was just like a training session for small businesses or people thinking about starting small businesses. And I remember being a part of that as well, and just kind of learning a little bit more. And I never ended up starting anything myself, but just brought in my perspective and understanding about some of that. And
That was a
I
joy too. That
yeah,
if I can insert that,
yeah,
all of a sudden
go ahead.
starting to network with other business people.
Yep.
It was doggone, what's her name at the wonderful restaurant Las Canastas?
Oh,
Uh,
blanking too.
Doña Betty.
Betty.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was in a conversation with her and another businessman that we started that little network of
Yep.
business people, business owners, and then actually through their contacts brought in a professor from Querétaro that that
Hmm.
that taught about how to put together a strategic business plan. And it was several weeks, and weekly he was coming down, and we probably had a
Yeah.
dozen or so
Yeah.
business owners, and then from there just stayed connected and kept doing other workshops and things. And
Hmm.
that was another joy.
Yeah.
And again, things outside the church, creating opportunities to just be with people, but and even go deep with people in their area of interest,
Yeah.
and then form those friendships and relationships, and praying that through that, just our witness, the love of Christ could affect them
Yeah.
towards
Yeah.
a personal relationship with Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know about the I guess the idea of remembering somebody fondly and just thinking of all the great things and stuff. And I know you're not perfect, and you know that, but I really
Really?
appreciated. Oh, sorry, I just told you.
Burst my bubble, man.
Yeah, so people like when you come up in conversation, there's just a smile on people's faces. There's just joy here. Like people, you
Mm,
guys left a sweet aroma of just the presence of Jesus, of people that really are, I don't know, just not just fun and good to be around, but that really are honestly seeking to live life in the kingdom well, to be a good witness. So I don't know. I just get to appreciate that I don't know the effect of that even after almost 10 years since you left, or yeah, more than 10 years since you left, to experience that. And so anyway, I'm grateful for that. And also your gym. I know you handed it off to some of the people that were in the gym when you left, and it's been through several owners. I don't even know who owns it now, but the place is still a gym. I mean, they're still doing all kinds of activities, and it's yeah.
Last I knew, it was
Um,
Victor, that
okay, yeah.
and was a
I don't know
friend
if
of
I.
mine,
Yeah,
and they're in that same spot. And
yeah.
anyway, and so we've actually
It's a
been
good.
in contact in the last couple of years
Oh,
on
neat.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat. Like, I mean, the place you picked is right on the main street that comes down from the main cathedral to the main square, and it's just very well trafficked, and people, it's right
Yeah.
there down in the heart of the town. So
Yeah.
anyway, well, over these years, and even in those years that you were here, Steve, I just remember just the great conversations about the faith that I've had with you over the years. I think we've shared um, a lot of common ideas, but also some that we don't see the same way, and it's been good to just engage and challenge each other. I've just been encouraged watching you, and how long when after you got back? Well, so you're a pastor now, in the Quad Cities in Illinois. And how long have you been pastoring now?
Over 10 years now.
Really?
April
Okay.
6th
Yeah.
this year was the 10-year mark. And
Wow. Yep.
yeah, probably should mention just it was brutal for us to leave. And it really was the wheels falling off the bus as a family. My wife's chronic, it was developing to just some chronic sickness. And then our daughter our oldest had been through just a really traumatic experience there.
Yeah.
A traumatic assault there in Tenancingo, and everything really was going gangbusters, and we loved, especially you all, your family. We loved the church. We loved just so many people, and so, but it really was our family was spiraling down and needed just to come home, extended furlough, and then talking with mentors, I was convinced that
Hmm.
we needed to
Understood.
relocate back and
Yeah.
stay here. And God has been very faithful and been very good. He brought us to an amazing church. Again, it's been a 10-year run. I laugh and say they haven't kicked me out yet. But it's, God put us in such a wonderful place to heal us up, and then rewired me to just serve as a pastor and I
Hmm.
think do some good ministry. But there's still a longing. There's still a sense of loss when having to have left Tenancingo, and I want, you've honored me in here and other ways, other times, talking about our friendship, and it's deeply felt, but that was a significant loss for
Yeah.
us, and I know you guys expressed it to us, and while it was hard to hear it from you guys that you were hurting by our leaving.
Hmm.
In a sense, it was both. It was honoring. We knew that it was because you loved us and just wanted to keep working with us. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Let's shift gears here and talk about the Crucible Project. I attended my weekend in April of 2015, 9 years ago, and I attended because you said, Matthew, there's this men's weekend you got to go to. I went and I went to it in Texas, but now they have it in Mexico. You need to go. And I said, okay. I've been born. I was born in a Christian home and raised, and I've been to all kinds of weekends. And here's another one. Why not? And you said, no, this is something else. And so in fact, you even sent some money to help me go, and I that changed my life, Steve. It really did. Going there for me the weekend, and I've shared this in other spaces, even here on Uspaxico. And so I decided that I was going to be more and more involved with the community. But so yeah, so say a little bit about, from your perspective, what Crucible meant to you, and maybe what you think about it. Yeah, some thoughts on that.
This is just one of those God things too, because some missionary showed up from Mexico City named James Henderson, and I don't know if I was introduced to him or we just I was anyway we just got to talking, and then long story short, James was telling me about this soul group that he had, a men's group in Mexico City, and invited me. Said, as I was expressing interest, he invited me and said, "Hey, come
Mm-hmm.
visit," and I did. And as was visiting, just listening, probably 15 guys in a circle in his soul group, and you know cool, it was cool interaction, but some of these guys afterwards were saying some pretty astounding things, like one guy I remember just said, I've been a Christian for 20 years, and I'm a deacon or elder in my church for the last dozen, and I didn't even know what Christianity was about until I started attending this soul group. I'm just like, and what was bizarre was, but it wasn't a Bible study, and it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
prayer group. And how can you have that kind of significant growth when you're not, centered in the word, centered in prayer, as a pastor, theologically trained, seminary trained? It's like, this doesn't add up. But it was guys just going gut level, heart to heart, but with just tons of grace there.
Mm-hmm.
And God's grace was having an amazing effect. And then James told me about how this was a offshoot of a ministry called the Crucible Project. And actually, he had a couple of his key guys that he was going to be taking up to Texas to go to a Crucible Project men's retreat for a weekend. And would I be interested in going? This was like 2011, maybe 2012. And James, bless his heart, was a good fundraiser and just said, "Hey, I'll pay your way." I'm like, well, I was already interested, but thank you. Okay. So it went up with him, with Jorge, Jorjon, and Cesar, and two guys that have become significant in that Crucible Project movement. And we had a phenomenal weekend up in, was it Brownsville, Texas? And so then James was telling us that his vision was to bring the Crucible Project, that retreat weekend, to Mexico to have it all translated in Spanish and train people up. And so it was like, this is really cool. And so I started this little soul group in Tenancingo and invited Javier Tarinda, El Alto, because there's two Javier Tarindas, you know that, and then Omar, and then I think maybe it was the first meeting or the second. It was like, hey, let's include Mateo. And so it was the four of us that formed that first little soul group. And I just remember the first meeting when it came time to some of the sharing, and then offering at the end a blessing to one another, words of affirmation and blessing and encouragement. I mean, I was tearing up hearing Omar bless Javier and Javier bless Omar. And then as we shared those blessings, and it was cool. And then they comment on it afterward. They were like, it was a holy moment.
Yeah.
But that little teeny soul group that started in Tenancingo, all of a sudden, you, Javier, Omar, all of a sudden went on a retreat and got just, the fire was lit in your hearts. And then you started inviting other guys, and then the soul group was built up.
Last night, we had a soul group meeting, the same thing you talked about in Mexico City that James had there, and it was at Javi's house, his apartment. So he lives alone, and so he opened up his space for us, and has been for the last few months. So there were 10 men yesterday sharing from the heart, challenging each other, blessing each other. So, your favorite fruit?
Banana.
Yeah, dogs or cats?
Oh, dogs.
Yeah. In another life, I would be or do.
I've always said if I get kicked out of the ministry, if I really blow it, I could be like a lounge singer on the Love Boat or something like that. Use my singing voice, and so
There you go.
yeah.
There you go. How about a favorite historical figure?
Abraham Lincoln.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
If you could interview someone, who would you like to interview?
Well, maybe Preston Sprinkle, or if you're talking about anybody from history, I mean, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, some people like that.
Yeah. So what would you do with $10 million?
Oh man, I would hope I would become an amazing philanthropist, and but not just give it all away, but establish some funds, and actually maybe buy myself a newer Acura. The current one I have has 293,000 miles on it, and I love that thing. Not a new one. I don't even need a new one, but just spend like $20,000 to get one that's 5 years old or 3 years old, and then live in the same house, but probably become a self-supporting short-term missionary and do a lot of missions work, and then create some foundations to where we could do a lot of blessing of people.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, coffee, tea, or other?
Oh, coffee. That's what I've been sipping here. Oh yeah.
All right, Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
Right.
That's poison. That's poison, man. Full of sugar.
There you go. A recent book you've read?
I'm loving, well, several, but N.T. Wright has a new commentary on Romans. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's N.T. Wright on Romans. And then another one that's been significant is The Coddling of the American Mind.
Yeah, I've heard of both. Yeah.
Two authors that co-wrote that, and their names, Jonathan H.A.I. Haidt. So
I've heard it said that way.
is it Haidt or Haight? Anyway, and I can't remember the other guy. Anyway, yeah, those are been good.
Is the N.T. Wright Romans book reading Romans backwards, or is that have
No,
I heard that title
no.
somewhere else? Okay, yeah,
And heard him interviewed again on Theology in the Raw, and heard about the book, bought it, and I'm loving it. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's I'm thinking of um well
Well, he's
Scott
written
McKnight.
like 90 books, so he
Right.
there might be
No,
something else
I
you're
think
thinking of.
I think it might be Scott McKnight who wrote
Ah,
readings Romans backwards. Maybe.
oh,
Anyway,
interesting.
okay. Moving on. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Okay. A favorite movie of yours?
Oh, well, I mean, the Lord of the Rings series
Hmm.
and Band of
Okay.
Brothers. Well, not the book, not the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Is math blue or red?
Hmm. I don't even know if I understand the question. Is math blue or red? That's like Blue Like Jazz, the book, or something like, that book title. Um, uh, I would say, I don't know. Yeah, math. I don't even deal with math. I'm a pastor. Yeah.
I
Seriously,
love it.
dude.
I like to throw a curveball there. All right. A place you'd like to visit?
I'd love to go back to Budapest, Hungary.
Hmm.
Um, that's on
Okay.
my bucket list. One of the many.
Okay. So beach or mountain?
That's a tough one. Mountain.
Hmm. Okay. And any series like Netflix or other places where you've enjoyed?
I mean, yeah, on certain days when it's just I need a cave day and I'm just gonna veg out. So actually, like Amazon Prime, and if I'm with my wife, it has to be a Hallmark series kind of mystery romance movie, and
Uh-huh.
and otherwise, if she's not with me, then I'm obliged to watch something she won't enjoy. So then it's going to be kind of some sort of shoot 'em up movie or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, those are my questions. What is something I haven't asked you that you would want to say?
Last thing I just want to say is just again express from me and my family just how much you and your family mean to us, and it's really sucked because we really are worlds away now after us moving back to the States, and we haven't been able to maintain the connection as we really would have liked. And of course,
Yeah.
pastoral ministry is just too brutally busy, and that's also grief. But we just love you guys dearly, and just think the world of you, and just yeah, we are just we're so proud of you guys that 15 years, and and we know your ministry only keeps building up, and we love you.
Thank you. Well, thanks again, and we'll have to maybe do a second round, like we said before, to go into other things. But appreciate you taking the time and interacting, and I love you, and as a friend, almost like an older brother. I mean, you're a little older than I am, but I feel like you've had my back often in the last decade, and we've talked about things and just bounced things off of you, and I've just loved your wisdom, and I'm just glad to have you in my life. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that.
That means a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah, and it's
awesome.
mutual.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Steve, and blessings to you and your family and everyone. And we'll
Oh, and
talk
to
soon.
yours. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. God bless you.